Prayer to our spirit people that are here already with us. Look at on the Hona Yato Kitachu Yam de Shiniki Yela and Quakana, Hona on the Pona, the Chilla Pata on Ata Shinaila Pata, and Hosiam Tina Zakiate, Kitana, Hoslistoni, Hapona, Pataki, and Peona, Ashna, Pakana, Tuntequi, the Hona Aho, Temsa, Ulon and Temsa, Honia, you had to Canapa, Akele to no Tequi, Honaka, Esquadra now to Matona and Semikutamic and the Hona Tonqua Temsayanicha, up to Ata Chu. Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out this afternoon. And for that prayer, that was beautiful. I'm Marjorie. I take care of the Tucson Awake and Aware group who's hosting this event. We have many different groups of people here today. This is a wonderful turnout, and thank you very much for coming. I suspect that most of you understand who Clifford is, but very briefly, I'm just going to share with you that Clifford is a Zuni tribal elder. He's 100% Zuni. He actually traveled here from New Mexico to be able to share with us, which I think is an incredible thing that you've done for us, and I'm very grateful for that, because it's quite a distance. It's about a 5-hour trip, and he came in last night. He is a medicine man by birth. So in the Zuni practice, as I'll probably explain, you get born into that, and he does practice in his community. He has fascinating amounts of knowledge about spiritual wisdom and possibly human origins and our connection to what his people call the Star People or the Space Brothers. And we'll be talking about all of those things today. Clifford is the best of both worlds because he is also a civil engineer and an environmental engineer. And I'll let you tell the story, but the way you explained it to me is that you ventured out into the white man's world while still having an understanding of the Zuni world. And when those two worlds come together, there's a lot of perspective that can be gleaned. So we'll be talking about that today too. I have two things in my hands, so I don't forget to tell you. Please turn off your cell phones if you could. And there's coffee in the back if you would like to help yourselves. I know it's a little crowded in here, but we're going to try to be casual and keep everyone comfortable. There's also restrooms across the hall and a fountain over there. Clifford has agreed to have this be more of a dialogue than just him standing above us talking down to us, which I'm very excited about. So if you have questions as he is speaking and you want to enter the conversation, just make it known and he'll take it from there. The other thing I want to make you aware of is that I have 2 DVDs graciously donated by Jim Roger, who runs the website www.ethericminds.com. He's actually in the back recording this event today. These are going to be raffled off at the very end. So what I'm going to do is pass around this clipboard with an envelope that has little slips of paper inside it. If you're interested in winning a DVD for an interview about the Phoenix Lights, or about petroglyphs and UFOs, both of which are from Jim's show that he used to host on local access television called Cutting Mind, The Cutting Edge Revealing the Truth. We'll be giving these away, and he also has them for sale on his website. So if you see this going around, that's what it is. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for being here, Clifford, and let's give him a hand.
Well, good afternoon. Like Marjorie said, I took some time yesterday. We had our our annual ritual that lasted almost a whole month, and we culminated yesterday with the spirit people called the Kachinas. But I will get into that a little more. And so what I would like to do is sort of give a background of why I'm here, what I'm all about. It's not about me. It's about to let you know how I came about to be doing these things. First of all, I said like Marjorie said, I was born in Zuni, New Mexico, during the Second World War. And at that time, Zuni was pretty well isolated from the rest of the world. I think you probably folks heard about Hopi and other pueblos. We were sort of away from the rest of the mainstream, especially the main street of America, called Route 66 in those days. And I grew up before electricity came into our village, before television, before radio, before any of the outside influences came about as far as communication networking. And in those days, we were taught in what we call kivas. And we were taught our way of lives by our extended family systems. And a lot of those stories that were given us were actually the way to live our lives. And a lot of these stories we thought were, or at least at that time, I thought they're just fables, like the wolf and the three little pigs, or these are the things. But as time went on, we were given this information, and there was a lot of parallels to what I later on, especially in Aesop's fables. And there was a lot of connection with the way we're supposed to live our lives. We were taught about a lot of things since we can barely walk around and remember. And a lot of these stories were given us, especially during the winter time. The grandfathers used to be called storytellers. And a lot of the grandmothers were also storytellers, and these stories had been talked about for ages and centuries. We don't know. A lot of it was history. A lot of them was what we had been taught to be, how to live our lives in honesty, truthfulness, and how to be good people and take care of the planet, take care of the animals, take care of your family systems. And this was instilled in us. Now, can you imagine not having any outside influences? This was before even books that we were exposed to. So all our information transfer was by oral tradition, oral history. And in those days, you were taught to listen, and you were taught not to ask questions. So it was like a one-way communication. So it was very difficult for us, some of us, to sit there and to take these stories and the information that were given us by the elders to say, you never had a question to say, well, why is it that way? And they'll shut up and say, they'll look at you like, you're not supposed to ask those questions until we ask you to tell us. So what it was they tell you the story, they tell you what the information is about. And what I didn't realize at that time was that there was also going to be a test. You remember that when we went to school, there's going to be a test. And the tests were in real life. If you were to go out there and say, well, this system over here is, say, like the religious system is in there, and then you kind of forget about it, your grandfather takes you out to the field. And then and what they taught you, let's say about crops, how to talk to the crops, how to address your crops, your corn field, your melon field, your chili field, and all that. Well, you were taught in the winter time, say, for example, how to carry on your traditional information that you addressed on your plant life. And in the springtime, you had that lack of time there. I mean, that time frame that you wasn't very well aware of. Okay, it's springtime now. Your grandfather takes you out there, and he stands you right in the middle of the field. He said, now you address the plant life what we taught you way back there. Well, the first thing that you do is you go into a panic mode. And the thing that you do is that, damn, I should have listened to that. And he's waiting for you. And he's waiting for you is that, well, we can't move until you make the prayer. So, you're sweating. And you don't know where to start. Well, you didn't do it. It's called homework, right? You didn't do your homework. So he'll take you aside and he'll say, from now on, you got to listen. So, or you'll go out to animal. In those days, we used to go hunting a lot, whether it be for food or for a ritual. We go out there, and you go out there, you're all excited. You go over there and you kill your first deer. And there's a ritual that you have to go through there. First of all living things have a soul. All living things have to be treated with respect. So you go over there and what they taught you, you have to go through rituals on that. One of the hardest rituals that I went through was when I killed my first deer. And it's a ritual that you go through when you take a life of another living thing, whether it's a plant or an animal, even a rock. There's many, many prayers that you go through, and they have to wait until you go through that. So what do? You have to put all these bits and pieces together in order to go through that ritual, because you took a life of a living thing. When you go out there to quarry rock, the grandfathers will give you, what we do is we use cornmeal. Remember, it's part of your life. In the Christianity, I think it's the peace of Christ or whatever it is that they go through that ritual. We do the same thing. It's cornmeal. You see probably cornmeal in a lot of different societies that they go through that. So there's so many complex things. So, okay, well, I started my life out like that. I had grandfathers, I had grandmothers, and the elders of the tribe. Remember, Hillary Clinton wrote a book called It Takes a Village. That's what it is where I grew up. You can go and ask, because each one of the people in our villages have specialties. You got the priesthood for different things. You got the warrior society. You got the medicine orders. You got the Kachina society orders. Each one of them are specialties, but you have to combine all of these things. Can you imagine a complex thing going on at the same time? It's just like taking a whole array of sciences. You take the physical sciences, you take the chemical sciences, you take all the different sciences to make that, and it's coming to you like that. By the time you're about a teenager, you have that information transfer that was put into your mind, but one thing different is that these are all oral information, oral traditions. I did a prayer this morning. It's a very minute prayer. When we go through a ritual, each one of us have the same prayer system. The old guy that had been practicing for years and years, he could stand here and he could recite from day one all the way through that whole prayer. You'll probably take about 30 minutes, because he starts from the beginning of our time, what we call our time, and he'll address all the different gods. He'll name them by names, and he'll tell them what stages are in that. And it's all oral. He's got to remember all of that stuff. Now, I go back there, and when I was taking engineering, I say, what was the quadratic equation? You can go over there and, oh yeah, here it is. Let me tell you the reference to that. The reference to that was for some of us that are not very smart in the oral tradition places. They would tell us, go look at your altar. Okay, I'm not talking about a different order, a medicine order. You go over there and there's an altar standing there. You don't know the color of the animal to make. You don't know the prayer stick to make. So you go over there and, oh, it's right there. Okay. You go over there and you make your prayer offerings. It's already right there. The altar is right there. They're all in sequence. They're all in sequence. They're all right there. If you want to know in a more expanded place, okay, grandfather, I really don't know about how this thing about happened. Remember in the time that you talked to me about the time frames that happens from the creation? You say, go up that canyon, and you will see. So you go up there, you pack a lunch, you go up there, you go to the canyon. Guess what they have over there? Petroglyphs. Huh? You got them all around here, right? You go over there and say, man, I forgot. I say, well, where's my reference book? You know, you don't have a book. Go up to that canyon. You go over there, you stand there. Oh, yeah, I remember, you know. You go back there and you go back into the kiva, and what you're doing is that information transfer by what they call supernatural knowledge. You make that connection again. It's just like going over there and making a conduit and sticking it to your video outlet, and all of a sudden you come flash, it's already there. That's how these guys used to remember those prayers, complex prayers, the rituals. Okay, you forgot. I say, when is the planting season going to start? Go look at the moon. You go out there. Oh, yeah. The moon rises at this certain place, and it's opposite of the sun. If you know, some of you guys are experts in astronomy. Remember how they go back and forth? In the summertime, the sun is over here. I mean, you know, in the summertime, the sun sets over that way, and the moon is opposite of it. Okay, like the new moon. I mean, the moon is coming up. On the sixth night after the full moon was when the ritual starts. All the way till this full moon, and that's where all the people like us in the medicine society say, okay, that's the day. Okay, December 21st is going to be the full moon. We don't go by the calendar of the white man's calendar. We go by the priesthood will say it's the new moon. They go through ritual. And 21st of this month is when we go in. Okay, it just so happens to be the full moon, right? So this information is so complex. It's a matrix system. So that's why I started out when I was a little kid. At that time, when you're a kid, you don't realize those things. I used to say, why in the hell do I need to know all this stuff? I want to go over there. I want to go fishing, and I want to go over there. And he said, oh, but by the time I got to junior high school, I used to participate in science fairs. The reason the science fairs came about was because of one thing called Sputnik. That's the reason why National Science Foundation took the lead in getting the kids to start doing science fairs. Well, what the hell is an Aboriginal kid on an Indian reservation want to do with science fairs? Well, you know, I was very interested in it. So here I am. Remember, the bumblebee is not supposed to fly because of aerodynamic design. Well, here I am. I'm so excited. I start participating in science fairs. You know what I did? I competed with kids from Los Alamos, White Sands Missile Range, Sandia Laboratories. And, you know, I was so ignorant that these guys, their parents were PhDs in physics, PhDs in chemistry. And I said, what's a little Indian kid trying to compete with this guy? Well, I didn't know, you know, but I had fun with it, you know. I go over there and I talk to these little brains, and I didn't know at that time. So that was my educational process. Okay, that's one side of it. Well, in the Indian world, it's a tough situation because it's for life. Some of us are in the priesthood. Some of us are in the Kachina They don't ever call it a cult. I will explain that later. Kachina society. Some of us are in the traditional roles of the warrior systems. And some of us are in so many complex orders, we did not know at that time that we were going to end up like that. Some of them are by birth. Some of them are by clan system. Some of them are just like being a walk-in. They get captured. We have what we call a capture syndrome in Zuni. There's no way that a person that is chosen by the gods, that he cannot go in there and he can volunteer to be a medicine man, volunteer to be the priesthood is by family, or medicine order or warrior society. It's not a volunteer system or by birth. So they set up the tricksters set up a system where they actually capture them. They capture them because you were chosen. You were chosen because you are so against everything else that I'm not going to do nothing to do with it. I don't want nothing. I don't want to be a medicine man. It takes too much time. It takes too much responsibility. So what happens is that the gods decide, it's time. So they'll go over there and they'll capture you. That's how some people become medicine men. I became a medicine man that way because I was angry when my dad was in World War II. I was born and my dad wasn't there. I was angry. Took me to the medicine man. The kid is angry because his dad isn't here when he was born. So we have to give him the medicine to make him feel better and not be angry anymore. So that's how I got captured. So there's many rituals that we go through. Well, anyway, after I'd done that in the Indian way, in the Zuni way, there's many different tribes in the Southwest. Zuni is not related to any other tribe as far as language is concerned, as far as the ethnology is concerned, but they're related in other ways. We are related to the Hopi. We are related to the Kiris people, the Tewa people. We are related to the people that are in Mexico, the Indians in Mexico, the Aztecs, the Incas. We are related to the ones that are in the jungles of South America, based upon the creation myth that we came out from the Grand Canyon. Okay. And the way that occurred was when the last world was destroyed. The Hopis are supposedly, according to the ethnologists and the archaeologists and so on, the Hopis are related to the Lemurian people of the Pacific. And you can see that in their rituals. The Zunis are a combination of many different groups. First of all is the Lemurian people, that when they went underground, when the earth was destroyed last time, and they also are related to what we call the people from the east, which would probably be Atlantis, because we talk about those in our prayers. We make a relation. Now this is, what's very interesting is that we're out here in the middle of the desert. We're out here in the Southwest. Why do we know about the Atlantic Ocean? Why do we know about the Pacific Ocean? Why do we know about the South Islands? Why do we know about the polar world? Our ancestors have been telling us that we went over there, we migrated to those places. Now, what is very, very interesting is that, well, where do we get all these things that we go through? Why do we have the kachinas? Why do we have the rituals about all these different things? and they'll tell you, who are those guys up there? These are what we call, in Zuni word, the ones that keep our ways, or the watchers, the ones that we do rituals for. We are, in Zuni language and Zuni rituals, the prayer is always, we are at their feet and we are at their back. They're the first ones that are in there. They come in there, they sit down, and we come in there. They're the ones that, this morning, when I opened that prayer, I addressed them because they're already here. And we are just visitors. We are the ones that are humble people. We're supposed to be humble. That's where we are taught later on in life about how to conduct all these things. Okay, going back to the educational process where it came about. Again, I went in there and said, man, I'm going to be a scientist, I'm going to be an engineer, you know. Well, why do I need to know all that Zuni stuff? That's just garbage, you know. It's got nothing to do with anything, okay? So here I went through, there's a few engineers in this room here. You know, when we go through, calculus and chemistry and all these other great sciences, you know, you can make a book, you can memorize all those things, pass the test, you know. You can go take those exams and you can have licenses all over the world, you know, that type of thing. Okay. Went through that whole ritual of the white man's educational process, which was excellent. I really enjoyed it. Now, when I got out there and I still have this thing that I've been avoiding, I don't want to be a medicine man. I don't want to be involved in the Kachina. It's too hard because my grandfathers, my father, and all those, they were going through these rituals, and it's hard. You have to go fasting, you deprive yourself a lot of food, sometimes you don't drink for 2 or 3 days, you know. You got to go through stamina. I don't want to be part of that. Well, finally it caught up with me. And here I am, you know, walking around there. I'm a proud engineer, you know. I can design all. Went to work for Shell Oil Company, you know, and I was doing all kinds of great stuff in structural design. And oh man, I'm a proud guy, you know, wearing my suit and walking around like acting real tough, you know. And then said, okay, but time I was about 30 years old, and the father said, they got into Kiva. He said, you have to come over here. You no longer have an excuse. He said, you're not going to school no more. You're back in the village. You're working. We don't believe you no more. You're not in school anymore. You have to come in there. So I said, well, you know, I don't want nothing to do with this thing. I don't know anything about this stuff. I mean, besides, that's ancient stuff. It doesn't apply anymore. I said, okay, well, you just get in there. Went through the whole initiation procedure, and it was tough. It was a real rough situation where you go through there. You have to go through prayers. You got to learn how to do all these things. But one thing that happened in that whole process, and I'm still learning to this day, is that I did not realize that what I had learned in the white man's world about engineering and physics and chemistry is about right here. In our ancient world, we're about right here. And if you look at it, it's infinite. And what was so amazing is that I did not realize that this is happening, that we had it all this time. You know, I learned out there what it was when I came back over and I started listening to the prayers. And all of a sudden I started, after I learned about the different systems throughout the different galaxies, different things out there. All our prayers are in connection with different galaxies, with different star systems. One of the examples that I use is Pleiades. I understand that there's 7 basic stars in Pleiades. And 3 of them are very visible, which is Orion's belt. And those are the ones that Gary David does a good lecture on that about Hopi and about the places out there. Well, one of the things that I learned about was that the first one is what they call the rock roof, which is the atmosphere, or the ones that when the Indians said that we're going to break by sending rockets out into the universe, we're going to break that, and all the bad things will come through there. And at that time, it was some of the different rays, the gamma rays and all that would penetrate that. And the other one was that we talk about the Big Dipper as part of our ritualistic. One of the things that was really interesting was that how come I was over there, and after I learned the prayers, I asked one of the guys, I said, how come they always talk about 7? Who is this? Which one is the 7? Because that's the Zuni term is 7. In literal meaning, it's 7. I mean, literal language is 7. I said, what do they mean by the 7? I said, have you ever heard of Pleiades? He said, you mean to tell me that they knew about that centuries and centuries ago? And they told me, they said, well, did you do your studies? He said, those are the guys that came from Pleiades that we talk about. I mean, it was really amazing. Okay, the other one is that we go through a ritual. When we go through medicine practices, we put on this. First of all is the ochre. You've probably seen the war paint. They used to call that war paint a long time ago. The first layer that's on there is the ochre. And you've probably seen football players nowadays, they wear, you know why they wear them, don't you? For your sight. Remember the old Indians when they used to go to war, they're hunting, they go like this. And what happens is that you don't have that reflection off, so and then after they put the ochre on there, they got these, I don't know what the chemical composition is, I haven't studied it yet, but each one of the medicine men got jars of that. It's black. And when they put that on there for medicine practices, they're shiny. I had to say, well, I said, I don't know what this stuff is. So I went and took some of them and poured it on there. I took a magnifying glass and I looked in there. It's perfect circles. It's that, I think there's at least, I don't know how many points are out there that sticks out. If you look at the sun during an eclipse, you know how it comes out like that? Well, I asked him, I said, what is this stuff? He said, that's supernova. That's what we use, because when we go into the medicinal practices for curing, we use the supernova so we can get direct connection in the universe when we're doing our things here. See, medicine men do not heal. Don't ever think that medicine men are healers. We're conduits. Okay? We are conduits from those people that are watching us. When we go through a ritual, it's just like being you remember how the Bilderbergs use the presidents for puppets? That's what we are. I mean, when we go through a ritual, and they talk about this, and the prayers are like this, all we're doing is that we're using they're using our hand to do the rituals, to do the healing. And that was explained to me when, in the order. Yes?
I just wanted to ask you for a point of clarification on that. Are you saying that what's coming through you when you do the healing work is the elders or the energy of the star people?
No, they're the energy from different parts of the universe, the different galaxies. Each one of them is like in the medical profession, you got your surgeons, you got your psychiatrists, you got your dentists and all that. Each one of them has their specialty. Some of them are external, some of them are internal. And the medicine orders, some of them are their specialties in the internal systems. They can actually go into your body and see what you're made out of. Now, they use a lot of tools, okay? One of the biggest tools or the best tools that they use is the crystals. You probably, a lot of people use that as your amulets, crystals, a lot of energy. And when the medicine people all have crystals. You go to an altar, which it's not open to public. When you go into their altars, there's different kinds of crystals. Some of them are this big. Some of them are round. Some of them were God-given way back then. Remember the crystal skulls and all that? Some of them are round, and some of them are hollow inside. That's what really is very interesting. How can something like that become hollow inside and form around that? Now, I've seen some of them. Those are very sacred things. But you don't see them. Each one of them are taken care of, is carried on tradition. So these are some of the things that that the Indian people in Zuni and the other tribes, some of them are more advanced that you cannot get that information from them because it's very well within them. There's a lady by the name of Nancy Yaw Davis wrote a book called The Zuni Enigma. And she had a book signing in Albuquerque, and I was very interested in her book because she tries to talk about these things that I'm talking about, and she tries to fit them in there. And I walked up to her one day, and when she had a book signing, and I said, "Where'd you get your information?" I said, "Who's your Zuni informant?" Well, I said, "What?" They said, "Well," I said, "I saw your bibliography on that, and what you're doing is you're taking bits and pieces of puzzles, and you're trying to mesh them together. It's like putting round pegs in square holes." And I said, it's not coming together. So I said, "I think you better do a little bit more research on this thing." And so, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Because some of the information you don't have, you can never get from the Indian tribes, the southwestern tribes, the Pueblo tribes, you cannot get." So I said, well, she got a kind of sort of angry. I said, "You know what?" I said, "I can go over here to a place called Los Alamos Nuclear Laboratories. I can get their secrets over there like that. You go to Zuni and try to get the secrets over there. I said, "I bet you any amount of money you can't get it." So she kind of got turned off.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a longtime friend from Nambe.
Yeah.
And she told me one time that they believed that there was more than one God. And I'm not sure if they're considering like all the beings that they work with as gods, because I always assumed that there was one creator God, and so it confused me when she said that.
Well, let me tell you one thing. There's only one God. Okay. Now the other, it's like an organizational chart. you got the. There's only one. I mean.
Well, I don't know why she would have said that. It was just.
Well, again, here's the other thing too that a lot of people is the interpretation of the systems that the Pueblos have. In this case, she's a Tewa. Nambes are Tewa. Tewa come from a different their creation is somewhere up around Colorado, okay? Now ours, Hopi, the Zuni, is from Arizona, and the other one, the tribes that died off, they were from Arizona, Grand Canyon. You look at the Keres people, which are around Albuquerque. Their creation is around what's that? Verde up in Mesa Verde. And what you need to do is they have to sit down and listen to their prayers and first of all, you got to know the language. So that interpretation gets lost. A common everyday language of the Pueblo people is not the same as the ritual language. I had a difficult time yesterday because I was talking the ancient language to the Kachinas. The ancient language is so formal and it is so pure that the everyday language, I'm used to it, but the universal discourse between the God's people and you as a humble human being, it's very difficult to weld when you don't practice it every day. So that sometimes the interpretation gets lost, and I noticed that among a lot of younger people among the tribes. They lose the interpretation because there's nobody there to explain it again, to interpret. But there's only one God. There's only one God. The difference is that we have different, groups, like an organizational chart. Yes?
Thank you. What is the difference between descendants from Orion and descendants from Pleiades?
I think what it is that when in the time perspective of the creation myth, each one of them came down at different different times. The first one it's just like going over and exploring a brand new land. You got to have the types of people, the trailblazers comes in first, that they mark the trail. Then the ones behind me say, oh yeah, this is where they did it, but they're already were advanced ahead somewhere. So the ones that are coming in later on, they've already, so from the different parts of the universe, they came in there and they had already done these things. But they already made a schedule and they made the landmarks. But they brought in different types of knowledge, different sets of protocols that they have to adopt, because it's not done like a boom right then and there. I mean, there's no way that. See, in the origin myth of the Hopi and the Zuni and the Southwest tribe, they were not like what we are today. They were in an animal form, not a human form as we know today. You look at some of the petroglyphs around Zuni, Grand Canyon, and all that. Remember, in some of those petroglyphs, they got six fingers, 6 toes, webbed feet, So that was the duty of the twin gods, which were servants of the galaxy people, to come over here because they were very special type individuals to fix those animals that were already here. Okay? So from what my teachings are is that they came from different parts of the universe with their specialties. Again, going back to the medicine system, each one of them had a thing to do. It was not one person that knew all the stuff. One group did not know all the stuff. So they had to have the specialists come in there from different parts at different times. Because you cannot shock them and say, man, we're going to do this right overnight. And that's the way it's explained to us. Because there were certain stages that had to be set. And these things that came from different things, that they had to take root over here first. And we go through prayers on that. The one that I belong to came from the Milky Way galaxy. the deity. That's the way the white man say it. The deity, which is our Father. See, everything in Zuni, in the Indian world, is a duality. It's both a male and a female, and they refer it as a he, but it's also got a she. So it's very hard to explain. But that's a reason that, I mean, that's what they tell us. That's what I was taught. Came from different parts.
Clifford,
Yes.
a point of clarification.
Sure.
To say that there's one God, that
Yeah.
that's the culture's belief system, for me, is an incredibly broad, subjective statement. What I want to ask you for my own clarification is, many people, as we're learning about our world right now,
Yes.
ask the question, is humankind a genetically engineered race from extraterrestrial intelligence? And has mankind come to perceive that extraterrestrial intelligence as the God concept? What do the Zuni people believe in direct relation to that?
Well, the Zuni people, again, is that we call it the direct. It's a literal meaning. Is that the one that is a keeper of our ways, and ways means anything, that whether it's the way of life, the way of things that are supposed to happen. And what has happened throughout the Zuni history was that when the Zunis were first in this last cataclysm, they went underground. Okay, they were put underground, and this is mythology. I mean, they can dispute all they want, but this is what our teachings are. So when they were inside the middle of the earth, there's an underworld there. And the Hopis and the Zunis believe in that because they came from that place. Others that came out with us, they went down south. Actually, they came from the Grand Canyon, which are the Mexican Indians and the South American Indians. And there's also another story for that, because the population at that time was huge, that they had to separate all these peoples. And the way they did it was a contest. The contest was, it's all fair. So the one mythology, and I think you can see this in Hopi and so on, is that they say, we got to make a split over here. Some of you have to go this way, some of you have to go that way. So they put two eggs. And one of them was a very colorful egg, a nice blue and beautiful one, and this other one was a very dusty, you know, not so pretty. So they say, well, the eggs will hatch. I mean, you know, maybe, you know, however they did it, magic. Well, when they opened up, well, the dusty, ugly-looking egg had a macaw in there, a parrot. So those are the ones that went south. The ones that kept the beautiful one was a crow. So that's the way the Zunis explain, how in the heck did we end up over here? Well, because we were so damn greedy. We were so damn greedy, we chose the beautiful one, look what we got. I mean, you know. They said, Mahuda, that's the way you pick your women, you know. They look pretty, and after you find out, no. Anyway, going back to your question, what was it again? I say women, and I was, huh?
Do they suspect that mankind is a genetically engineered race
Yes.
via extraterrestrial intelligence, or the star people, and are the star people part of their concept of God?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the way it's, again, going back to the creation, when they were down in the fourth world, okay? And it's all ritual, it's all religion. When they start bringing them up through layers, the star people, the head star being was a light force that came down, but he had two workers with him. And those are what they call the twin gods. In every Indian, Southwest Indian tribes, they're the warrior That's where the warrior society came about. Okay? They're twin gods, and we go through a ritual every year. They're twin gods. If you look at them, they look like they got an astronaut cap on, hat on there, and they got like, remember that what is it, that Star Trek Second Generation? Remember that guy used to wear that with the blind guy? And they're like that, and they got markings like this, and in the side. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the picture of what we just went through last week. These are what they call the Shalako ceremony. These are missiles, spacecraft. Okay, here is one. See this guy right here? He's wearing a uniform of an astronaut. Okay. See, this guy right here is a uniform of an astronaut, and on his head, he's got a leather cap, buckskin cap, and in the middle, he's got an antenna. Okay. And it took me a long time to figure out what the heck is going on here, type thing. Those are the ones that came over here, and they're the ones that actually went through the transformation process, because they had anatomy in different places, and they're all in petroglyphs in the Grand Canyon. They actually have panels of it, how they went through the evolutionary process. And it's very interesting is that when they're going through at one stage, they got this animal that looks like an animal. It's got these six digits on each hand, 6 toes, and they got webbed feet. And now here's a very interesting one. And I thought this was a joke for a long time. And the grandfathers used to talk about through their oral histories that they had their anatomy on their forehead. The male on their forehead. Well, the folks went down to the Grand Canyon, and they actually have one on the petroglyph that's like that. And then what it is that they got this wave that goes up there like an S-curve, and there's a star that's sitting up there on the petroglyph of how the connection had been made during the fixing of the anatomy of the things that had been down there in the earth. Because they had been in there for I don't know how long after the last earth had gone away. So they held in sort of like in a refuge. Now here's a very interesting one. When they were down there, the insectoid people took care of them. We call them the ant people. The ant people took care of them. And
what you call ant people, we call it greys. I think it's the same race of beings.
Yeah.
With the almond eyes and real skinny bodies and
yeah.
arms. And when that happened, that overall cataclysm happened,
yeah.
we went underground. That was from the war between the Lemurians and the Atlanteans from nuclear exchange. I believe that's a theory, at least. That's why we went underground.
Yeah.
Get away from all the explosions and everything else and nukes. That's
yeah.
more a theory that I believe in. But
yeah, see, we got oral history on that. The Hopi, the Zuni, the Kiris people, they got oral history on that. They were actually taking care of those. They were in their world. And when the star people, the star beings came about, okay, it's now time for the next evolutionary stage. That's when they came about, and they sent in a very high order religious system. That's what they talk about, which is the priesthood. When they brought in the starman, we call it the star being or whatever it was. It was so. He was from the high order, from some some star system, but we just call him the Starman. We've even got Kachinas for that. Anyway, when they came over there, they had these two twin gods were the one that was given the task to go through the evolutionary process. And you can see this in the petroglyphs throughout all this part of the country. Now, the interpretation is the one that's a hard one. You can go over there and you can stand there and you say, well, you know, this guy is that, this guy, what is this guy doing here? Well, there's a lot of scientific references on there, but that's what they knew at that time, how this scientific procedure and those protocols they went through, which they actually etched into the rocks. And now I think they're finding out a lot about this, especially through the physics and quantum mechanics and all that, all the different fields of energy that they used to see on these things. But that's what our oral history is all about. They fixed those guys up so they can, now they were getting ready for them to go through a migration process.
And then, is this knowledge generally shared among the upper echelon of the Zuni culture,
Yes.
the priesthood? Or would you say that all Zuni people have a concept that mankind is a genetically engineered race, that extraterrestrial beings exist? Is
Well,
this mainstream knowledge there?
Yes, it used to be. But again, we were all taught that. But again, at that time, what do I need to know this stuff for? You know, because information transfer, when you're a young age, you're not concerned about that. Because somebody's going to take care of it. You know, it's going to be here when I'm, you know. But what has happened in the last, since about after television, is that this information that was given us on a daily basis, it went like this. The reason is television. Now, what is it? So it's very difficult to pass on this information now. But there are certain people, families that still carry on the tradition. The priesthood, if you, like I said, remember when I was telling you that I didn't do my homework? Well, when you get in there, you have to play catch up. They have to pound that stuff into you. And they pound it. It took me, let's see, I went in the order when I was 30 years old. I'm 66 years old. I'm still learning. By the time I end my life up, even if I live to be 100, I'll just be scratching the surface. That's how intense it is. But yes, the protocols were given. How to live your lives, the clan systems were given. Okay, that brings me up to the next group that a lot of you are familiar with. It's called the Kachinas. How many of you have Kachina dolls in your... How many of you have seen pictures of Kachina dolls? How many of you are aware that the Hopis were very influential in distributing Kachina dolls? Okay. The Kachina is the misnomer is it's a cult. It is not a cult at all. Okay. I had an argument with an I guess an archaeologist over at Chaco, about 3-4 years ago when I did that first, it's called Nostradamus 2012 or whatever it was. I think some of you might have seen a glimpse of me on there. Well, I don't think they liked the story of what I told them. Now, my ancient teachings are, okay, you gotta be very open-minded about this, since, especially when the open-minded guys are here, you know. You have to. You're taught in the ritualistic way about, you open your mind, and they tell you about places. They tell you about the names in our language and our system about these certain places, not only on this planet but other places in the universe. Well, what I was taught was Chaco. I've never been to Chaco before that time, okay? And but what they used to teach us, it's just like, say like I've never been to Paris. If somebody sat me down and told me is that there's Paris, France, here's the Eiffel Tower, and the Eiffel Tower, you go down this boulevard, you put all these places, and you say, okay, now tell me what I told you. They say, well, the Eiffel Tower is here, there's a certain place over here, there's a certain place over here. You say, well, what was the Eiffel Tower for? Oh, it's just some guy's dream that he made up and blah, blah, blah. You know, you remember that. Well, you finally get to Paris. You see the Eiffel Tower. Oh, yeah, that's what they were talking about, okay? The same analogy that was taught us in a lot of different places. Because we do it by song, we do it by chant, we do it by ritual. We make that in our kivas, okay? The first time I went over there and said, there's this huge thing called a kiva in Chaco. And I told that guy, I said, this is not a kiva. He said, well, what do you mean? I mean, the archaeologists now. Hey, let me tell you one thing. The kivas were created after Pueblo II, which is about 13 to 1400. And the reason that they built those ones is because that they have to have a place of ritual for the Kachinas. This was created before the Kachinas. This was abandoned during the time of the Kachina. Now have you ever been to Chaco? You know how huge that